We have nobody actually asked anything in our campus.
Good evening. This is a test. This is only a test. Do not be alarmed. Okay. Yep. Okay, so no cursing. And testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Okay, good.
Okay, we are now, our audio is now, it's going out the world. Okay, so I'll just get behind Megan here for cover. Just kidding. So due to a technical issue, it was my fault. I opened the meeting early, which was the original link. I opened it too early and then I ended it and then that blitzed the link. So I have since sent out, if we have your updated personal email, I sent out the new link. Of course, you're here live, so this doesn't impact you. But if anybody's like, hey, what happened? Is this shenanigans? No, it was just Ron messing up the IT department. That was me. I did send out a new link to all of the personal email addresses that we have from CTA. So if we have your updated email address, then it's been sent. Did anybody get that email?
Yes.
Personal email? Okay, good. I just want to make sure that I didn't imagine that. I did also, if anybody is a site rep, I did also send those out to site reps. So site reps can forward those on as well. So I just want to make sure that the tech is now working and we can let all of our members know. Anybody back at your site who's like, where is it? What's going on? Once the live stream is over, it will be a recording that members can watch if they're doing something else right now, because it's a busy time of year. Okay, that's it from the IT department. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
All right. Thank you, Ron.
Yes. And if you want the people on YouTube to hear you, that's the official microphone.
How
Feel free to
close?
blunt.
Okay.
There you go.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Welcome, everybody. I'm John Minkus. I'm president of HDTA. I know most of you. Thank you for coming today. We're here to share with you the tentative agreement that our bargaining team achieved with the district the other day. And today we're here for our Q&A prior to our vote. Our bylaws require the meeting and a 3-day voting period. So we are going to squeeze this in before the end of the year. We are staying on track. One of the things that this bargaining team has promised is to make all efforts to keep on track and keep us on time. For most people, it looks like ahead of the game, but we feel that this is on time and we're doing the right thing. So today, what I'd like to do is we're going to have a Q&A on the contract itself. The information was sent out. You had a chance to look at the summary items and the actual text itself. So we will just open up each section for any questions. We had asked people to provide their reps with questions. So we want to make it clear what has been proposed so that our membership can vote yay or nay, knowing what is in the contract. So first, I want to turn it over to Megan and let her introduce herself and the team. And I want to say thank you guys so much. This team has worked for over a couple of years now, and really put together fantastic contracts in an expeditious manner that have made our lives a lot easier, because we're not 800 strong in front of the board like we used to have to be. So thank you to Megan, and I will turn it over to her. Pass that down.
Needs to be a little bit lower. All right. Hi, thank you for being here. I'm Megan Botten, the chief negotiator. Members of our team that are here, we have Eleanor Tenio. I almost used your married name. We have Cassie Perez, we have Eddie Carr, and Ebony Shields is here. Not with us this afternoon is Mike McGeever and Don Madrid, who had other engagements they had to be at. First and foremost, I wanted to say that or remind people that just because you don't see it in the contract right now doesn't mean we didn't try, and it doesn't mean that we're not going to continue to try. So I know that there are several groups of people who were hoping to see some other things in this contract, and we're still working on those things. So if I have been in communication with you about the kinds of things that you wanted to see, just know that we're not done. Every contract is just a little chipping away a little more each time, making it a little better each time. And it's very rare that you get big chunks of language and big chunks of improvement at once. Sometimes we're able to do that, but the district has to be willing to work with us too. So they're the ones that get to say yay or nay at the end of the day. Okay, so I'm not going to go through each item of each article that was changed because it was a lot. The whole contract was open this cycle, so we made a lot of changes in a lot of different ways. Most of those changes, not most, but quite a few of those changes were just cleanup. So cleanup is making corrections to grammar, punctuation, updating things for realities and the way that things really are now versus how they were written in the contract. So I'm going to start with Article 3, definitions. I'm going to make the assumption that you took a look at the summaries and the language. So do we have any questions about Article 3, definitions?
Okay, I asked Eleanor to sort of keep her head up too. You guys,
Okay.
so if you do have a lot, like we said, a lot of these they're not really consequential to most people. These are things that are clean up in language and whatnot. So no worries if you don't have questions.
Okay.
But remember, if you did have questions from your people or you think of something, please share. Go.
Okay. Then the next one was Article 6, school calendar. Any questions regarding changes made to school calendar? Nothing Nothing earth-shattering here. You have a question, Mr. Ippolito?
Get a question. So just to confirm, typically we've been trying to. We still have the 3 days. It's been the 2 meeting days and then the one like in your classroom on your own day.
Correct.
Just updating, kind of putting up that language that has already been in place.
So the updates to the school calendar, yes, we do still have the 2 days of meetings for professional development, for staff meetings, for your PLT meetings, plus the 3rd day is the work in your classroom day, the meeting free day. The contract did not reflect those 3 days, so we just updated it to reflect that you have those 3 days. I think it said 2 days, when really we have 3 days. The other change to that one was allowing school sites to have flexibility, which of those 2 meeting days was going to be professional development and which was going to be site-specific meetings. That's it. Okay. Anything else for Article 6, school calendar? Moving right along. Article 7, unit member workday. Questions on this one? Ebony. Okay, so the question is for 7.3.2, I'm assuming. Is it just for IEP meetings or is it also for 504 meetings? The language is just for IEP meetings, but I'm sure we could probably make a case for 504s. We can certainly ask each school site. So the new language here is that for general education teachers who are pulled from their prep period for IEP meetings, that after the 7th in a semester, then you get compensated for it. Question.
And then they just constantly second semester for all the IEPs have to come. We're lucky if we get one planning period. Like I'm one of those teachers this year and I think there's 4.
This is, yeah.
And they're just like, sorry. No,
No,
you
it's
have a
not.
choice, you have to go, even if they already took their whole.
Okay,
2
yeah.
hour planning period, then take another one and what about my time plan for my final?
So here, let's address it here first because
Repeat it for the live stream.
So the question was,
Or it's-
it was a long question. The question was along the lines of, or it was a statement, teachers at certain school sites, there's only so many who have a prep period during a period of the day. And so there's only so many who can go and cover class periods for teachers who are pulled out for IEP meetings. And I think it's a question of equity and making sure that you have your planning period time during the week in an equitable fashion, right? And then John was going to address that.
This is our step as we do. We have to implement something so they feel, so they recognize that this is happening. Like we said, we're chewing at their ankles. This is the first step. This is a major problem in my mind because I'm seeing it, the disproportionate in those weird prep periods. Those people are losing their free time way too often, probably half the time because of covering classes. Yes, no, this is going to be a big issue in the near future. It has been brought up behind closed doors. It has been brought up in front of them at the board, but that's as far as it's gotten. So we had to go here to start addressing it contractually. Thank you.
Yeah, we have had lengthy conversations about that with various people at the district level. And the language that you see here in this tentative agreement is a step in that direction. So now the small step is recognizing that there's value in those prep periods, and then building on that in the future will be for those teachers who are providing that coverage when teachers are pulled away from their classes, not just in their prep period. I don't know if that answers your question or your concern. It is something that we are aware of and we're working towards.
Master schedule.
Yeah, that's master scheduling equity is, yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions for Article 7, unit member workday? No questions. Okay, so that brings us to Article 8, teaching hours. Do we have specific questions for teaching hours? Seeing none, moving on. Okay. Hopefully you guys saw some of those release periods in there at the end. We did try to get some more for some more folks. Okay, Article 9, supervision and extracurricular duties. Not a whole lot different here. Any questions on this article? We do always try to remove the supervision altogether. We have not yet been successful. It's kind of, somebody described it as the Christmas card exchange. Here's ours, you know what we're going to ask for. Here's yours, you know we're going to say no. But we try every time anyway. Okay, Article 10, evaluations. Questions for Article 10, evaluations. Okay. This is going to be fast. Okay, so Article 12, we are going to have as a mutual reopener for the fall. This has to do with class sizes and caseload sizes. These are conversations that we started and will continue in the fall. Because it's tied to money, the district wasn't comfortable yet committing to anything. So these are conversations that are going to be continuing, which takes us to Article 14, transfers. Questions on Article 14, transfers? Yes. Okay, so the question is for district employed job titles like psychologists, speech language pathologists, nurses, and social workers as part of that too. What protections are in place? So previously, we added a section in Article 14 for those employees because the way that the transfer language reads now doesn't really apply to those kinds of employees. The transfer language is more appropriate for employees who are site specific, teachers, counselors, librarians. When the job posting goes up for when there is a vacancy, it's for a specific site. Those employees that are housed at the district but then assigned to different school sites work a little bit differently. So our transfer language wasn't quite working. So what we've added is language that specifically applies to those job titles, and the protections that are now there allows them to have a confidential survey at the end of the school year to have a say in here's where I would like to be and here's why. I would like to be moved to this particular site or another site for these reasons. I don't want to move to another particular site for these reasons. It also outlines the process for which that would happen and or the reasons why that would happen. Here's a criteria for why a move might be necessary. It details who would make that decision and who would collaborate together. So it would be the special education director and the department chairs to make that decision. So I guess the short answer to that question is there previously was no protections for those particular employees for their special circumstances. Anything that's not currently detailed that would answer a question of, well, how do you decide employee A moves or employee B moves? If that was previously decided based on the rubric that's already in there, it will still be decided on that rubric. So anything that's not explicitly detailed in the new language would fall to current or past practice. So that would be current. If that's how they made the decisions before, then that's how that would remain. They would go to current or past practice. So the way that we see it, nobody lost any protections, they've gained protections. And this is not, again, this is one of those instances where this is not where we want to end. There's still more work that we want to do here, but this is where we ended for this cycle. But there is more work to be done. This would apply to both, yeah, employee initiated and district initiated. That's why there's that survey. So if an employee wants to do that initiation, they can say, hey, look, I really want to move sites, and here's why. And they do that confidentially. So it's not anonymously, but it is confidential so that if there's somebody that you didn't want knowing that you were looking to move, then they wouldn't. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions for Article 14 transfers? Yes. So you don't see, and this isn't for Article 14, but it's a general question about the dual language immersion. You don't see any language for dual language immersion because that would fall under Appendix C, and we didn't do anything for Appendix C this time. So it's not an oversight. We are not making any changes to that at this time because the district wasn't ready to do so. So we do have all that information. We did present all the information for the dual language immersion teachers. We gave them data, we gave them charts, we gave them job titles, we had conversations about it. We just don't have any results for that at this time. That doesn't mean next time we're not going to. Anything else for Article 14? Okay, moving on to Article 16, discipline. Any questions here? Hopefully not. It was all cleanup. Dr. Nielsen's a really big fan of making sure things have periods and commas. He was an English teacher after all, yes. It's helpful. Okay. So Article 17, safety. Any questions for this one? There's a lot of renumbering in this one. Nope. Okay. Article 18 was really short. Unit member travel. Any questions for that one? Some of these are kind of laughable because the whole contract was open. So you take advantage of the whole contract being open to make sure things are as good as they can be. Okay. Yes, once every 3 years, the whole contract is open. So next year, we will be able to open 3 articles each side. So we'll be able to open 3. The district will be able to open 3 plus any mutually agreed upon reopeners. So right now we have mutually agreed to open Article 12, and we've mutually agreed to open Article 24 so that we can continue work with LPA and the independent study program. And then every year, Article 19 salary and the appendices are open. Okay, which takes us to the one that, or I'd say maybe the only one that people care about, Article 19, salaries. Questions for Article 19? Jeremy. What we bring to you is always what the district is authorized to give us. So, yes. So the question is, was that the district's last, best, and final? The answer to that is yes. Following up to that is, was there discussion about the extra positions at the district office that have been created wherein some people feel that money should have gone to compensation to help for cost of living increases for employees? So there's a lot of conversation there. This is for the people listening at home. Yeah, there's always conversation about that in terms of what the district can say that they afford or can afford to offer. That's a question for them. That's a question for the school board. It's not the district leadership that comes up with these numbers. It's the school board that gives them authorization for what they can give to us. They base their decisions on the COLA that's given by the state that hasn't yet been adopted. So the state budget hasn't yet been adopted and approved by the state legislature. That's not going to happen until mid-June, mid-late June. So the COLA that they're operating under is 2.87. There is the additional quote unquote super COLA of the 1.44%, but that is earmarked and has strings attached to cover the cost or the potential cost of the paid pregnancy disability leave. So that's not something that's just given to them. It does come with strings attached. So really what we're looking at is the COLA of 2.87. In terms of not keeping up with the cost of living, there's a lot of industries that aren't keeping up with the cost of living. Right. Yep. We cannot disclose where we started with negotiating, but it was more than 2. So we always start higher than where we end up.
We're here to talk about what's in it, right? So you understand it. Yes, Wayne.
So the question was, what happens if we don't accept this offer? So if membership does not ratify this tentative agreement, then the next step is asking the district if they're willing to go back to the table. They can say yes, they can say no. If they say no, then it goes to fact finding, and then you follow the line down from there. Question. So I guess the question is, how do we get to a monetary agreement so quickly, and it was so rushed? We attended a budget workshop with people at the district the previous week. So the governor's May revise comes out mid-May, and it doesn't tend to change much after that. So the district had enough information to make a fairly confident offer to our team. And our job is to get them to the place where they're no longer authorized to make any movement. And then our executive board decides, okay, bring it to vote for our membership. And then membership gets to decide, do you want it or do you not? And it's not just the monetary stuff, it's the rest of the contract as well. So when you vote for a tentative agreement, you're voting for the entire tentative agreement, not just the salary. So if you're voting down a tentative agreement, it's not just the salary, it's also all the language stuff as well. But that's going to be up to membership to decide. That's why we take it to your vote. But we push them as far as we can. Oftentimes we push them beyond where they are authorized to go, and they have to make phone calls to board members to see if they can squeeze any more out of them. Also understand too that we are still in the fiscal stabilization plan. So they're going to be probably a little more fiscally conservative than maybe they would otherwise be. But whatever they agree to and whatever we agree to needs to go to the county first. And the county needs to look at the budget and say, okay, yes, we approve it. We think that you can afford this and you're not going to go backwards. And then once the county approves it, then I think the board approves it first and then the county does, or maybe it's vice versa. But in any case, we have that extra step where the county needs to approve their budget as well. That was a parting gift from our last financial person at the district. So we're still in that fiscal stabilization plan. We have that extra piece. So the fiscal stabilization plan is a plan that the LA County of Education puts a district under if they start moving backwards. So if it looks like in the out years, year 3, they might be bankrupt, then they'll say, hey, wait a minute, you need a plan to make sure that you're not going to go bankrupt. And then they kind of work as an oversight committee to make sure that they're doing what they need to do to not go bankrupt. Worst case scenario, and this has happened in some districts recently, I can't remember where exactly, I want to say central area. They've had districts that couldn't pull it together, so they had the state took over. Essentially, the state took over the district. They came in, they have a new superintendent, they have new people, they have new financial people, and now the state is running their budget, and that's where we don't want to be. I don't know what happens to bargaining rights when that happens.
So I'm curious why we don't state trial and take over when it seems like the district is not able to get finance.
I'm not sure that's a contract or a bargaining question as to why we don't want. Okay, so why are we trusting the numbers that they're giving us as being the best they can do? Again, our job as a bargaining team is to push them as far as they can go, and then it goes into the hands of the membership. Whether you trust it or not is going to be up to you. We feel that this is the best that we could do because we did push them beyond where they were authorized to go. Yep.
Well, one of the things is that being under fiscal stabilization means they're checking our books.
Mhm.
That's the whole point. We can't have Fund 17 anymore. Those of you who remember that can't use it anymore. We can't have the slush fund there. You can't keep more than 10% in your reserve. I mean, there's new rules. We don't even have to do it because Ralph led us into fiscal stabilization. And we actually ended up in it this year again for a 4th year because our budget didn't come out net zero last year. But that's why, Jeremy, because the county is checking it for us.
But if they're not allowed to keep a certain amount of overage and creating positions, that's where the extra money is going. That's why I brought it up earlier. You know, so another question we have is that have the district shared with the bargaining team, with the union, what cuts they've made to try and compensate us closer to the cost of living? Is the district paring back anywhere to try and pay us better and more competitively? Or are we the only ones being asked to suffer?
So the question is, have they shared with us what they're doing to cut back? Some things, yes, they have tried, well, with the benefits committee that we recently had, and that's why you had that survey that went out about what are you paying out of pocket for your premiums, what are you paying out of pocket for your copays. That would, if we had agreed to raise the copays for our prescriptions and our office visits, that would have saved the district over $1 million. We declined because that would have been on the backs of our membership. We would have generally been paying more out of pocket than we are now. So our premiums are a little bit higher than they would have otherwise been, but our total out-of-pocket cost is lower than it would have been. So that's one way that they would have tried to save some money. Another way that they are trying to save money, and they're nickel and diming this, is through staffing and through programs. But again, I think that's a question for the district, and that's not a bargaining contract tentative agreement question. So their finances are being overseen by the county. It is a different vibe in that office, and it is a different group. It legitimately is a totally different group of people handling the finances than even 6 months ago. The payroll department has had complete and utter overhaul of people. So it's taken them a little bit of time to get things settled, and there's been a lot of mistakes. It is concerning, yes. Yes, but they've been a lot more transparent with us in terms of what they're spending their money on and what the books look like. They've been inviting us to their budget meetings. Wayne has a question.
With no guarantee that the money will come back.
So the question is, what are they doing on their side to them?
Being proposed that they pay more out of pocket costs?
They would have too, yes. District employees would have also paid out more out of pocket because they're under the same kinds of health benefits. But again, that's not a question for us. We don't get to negotiate for district leadership. That's for them. That's between their contracts are between them and the school board. So that's really up to the school board to decide. But salary and benefits for all employees, not just HDTA, is 85% of the budget. So that's naturally where they're going to look to find their savings. Michelle has a question. Mhm. These kinds of questions would be great for a board meeting to ask for the school board.
They're doing it at the meetings anyway, but they need when we sit on our cell phones, yeah, or we're talking, which our rep doesn't feel bad, which I agree, but I think there are more of us to show up. I need to.
Well, they don't get to do that to you. They get to do that to me, not to you. No, they can do that to me, but not to you. I'm not okay with that one. They were doing that? They were on their cell phones when you guys were speaking? I did not know that. That's not okay. Oh, I'm taking that one off.
So as people sit in the chairs and show up and ask these questions and see what they tell us. Why can you not address that? I'm gonna play ignorant. Why can you not address that position that, Sal left one place and they opened a job for him at the,
I will answer.
so.
Oh, I did. I met with Sharice for 2.5 hours last Friday, and I spoke to that specific question. I told them how much he was making. I told them that this is a 1-year bump for him for his STRS. I told her how much he makes. I told her how much I make. And I I can tell you there's well over $100,000 difference. And I made that very clear. And if you watch my speeches, I make this stuff very, very clear. That's all we have. Okay, but the position existed. The way they changed the title. Aram Jones, that was Aram Velick. It's her position. Then if the positions were there, they keep bumping titles to give them more money. That's what they're doing, Jeremy. Then you're right, and that is absolutely true. So
That's just where I feel at this point, because I am doing more counseling in the classroom now. I'm not a teacher anymore. When I talk to my family who's in the business and dentists and doctors, and I tell them what I have to go through, and they're like, "You're kidding me, right?" They're like, "Don't you just teach math?" No, I don't just teach math.
but let me answer, because as you said, so the first step I do address those issues. I sit with the board members, I talk to them. And then if this is what our body brings to our reps and says we need to address this, then we organize it. Then we get speakers. We organize it. We get you guys at the meeting at the right time. We tell you what to say. We give you, here's your outline for you. We want you to go first, second, third, fourth, and we'll do that with you. But we don't have power except for what we have is 1,000 people walking in a door. That's our power. I don't know who's next. If you want to ask people who the doesn't matter. The newspapers, we're there. That's on them. Yep. That's. But there's 56% of our teachers that have been hired since 2019 that don't know all that. There's not money there, is what I'm going to tell you. That's why we recommended it, because this is a recommendation, you guys. This is the executive board recommending this to our people. This is not just saying, here it is. This was a vote. The bargaining team works here. The e-board works here. They brought it to e-board. We discuss. E-board says, yes, we recommend this. We're bringing it to our people as a recommendation of leadership. That's how it works. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. And I wanted to mention that the other increases that the district sees every year, it's about 1% every year for the cost to step and column increases. And this year, health insurance increased by about 8%. So they have those increases as well. So when we do get the COLA from the state, even though it right now is sitting at 2.87, their realized COLA is going to be less than that, because then they have to remove the 1% for the steps and columns, and then the 8% for the health insurance. Another question? Yes.
So if it's not fair, is there a possible, we're not even keeping up with inflation, but is like, what's required of us, our responsibilities increases. And I know you mentioned supervision and, but there's more meetings to attend. There's, department, PLT, this, that, guiding coalition. And we can't even fit all of them in our early release dates unless we stay till 4:35 to get all of our meetings done, right? So I don't know if that's where's our decrease in responsibilities if, because some of us have to have a second job just to many of us. And I've been in this district for 32 years. And I still have to have a second job just to support the increase in inflation. And every 5 years get a bump. That stakes for 5 years. I just got a year and a half ago, so I still have 3.5 more years where my pay will stay exactly the same. I get a 2% raise. The last time we had a raise, I had more taxes taken out because it moved me to a different bracket. So I'm worse off after our last raise. Yeah. I would rather rescind my last little raise and pay less in taxes. I mean, and I don't know that, I think they are removed from reality. When you're making a lot more money, it doesn't matter.
So we have to choose our messages and we have to present them, and that's what we do.
So to bring it back for those who might be tuning in at home, the question essentially was, where's our reduction of duties if the money isn't there? And the answer to that is I'd say not even the last year or 2 years, John has always been hounding them in his board speeches about the time. And it's something that we talked a lot about at the table is time. And when are you going to take something off our plates? And that's where we try to find where we can in the contract to limit the time or to honor the time that they take from us. And so last year for the school year, that's why we were able to limit these staff meetings to 60 minutes, not what it was before. It's where we are starting to see language to honor prep period time. It's where we're starting to see language for compensation for our special groups who spend their time on the weekends and outside of school hours to give them comp time. It's where we see language. This year, we increased the amount of comp time that you can roll over to the next school year. So we do have those conversations, but unfortunately, we do not have the power to make them reduce our workload. The only power that we hold is if you show up and you speak to the board, and if it that's not a bargaining team power. Because we collectively, all 1,082 of us, are the union. This is not just the union. It's all of us. Everybody who pays due is all of us.
I feel like we have things in place that are trying to be like, good boy, good girl. But now I'm gonna retire in, 6 years with 260 days. And I know other people, that's a first world problem. But at the same time, it's like they throw things at us that are supposed to make us feel like we're doing good. But pay me out for my that I have. We get a year of service credit.
I mean, you're right. And this is it's a problem that the teaching profession is seeing all over the place. There is more and more and more that is demanded of us with less and less time and fewer and fewer resources. That's not unique to our district, unfortunately. But we can only do what we can to try to mitigate the effects of that. Wayne?
Megan, real quick.
Oh.
Sorry, I'm gonna.
Ron?
I know there are other hands, but I also, speaking of time, there's an 8th grade gala that I need to walk over to the other side of campus and get to. But I do want to address a couple things. First of all, it sounds like I'm hearing from you, Nicole, that if you're taking more time for meetings than is contractually required, it sounds like we may need to look into a possible contract violation issue there.
Just to get our stuff done.
Yeah, so yes, and we've been addressing that at Sierra Vista as well, and it sounds like we may need to address that at La Mesa also. Finally, to your point, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Carrie? Yeah. Hi, Carrie. Carrie, it sounds like what you may want to help with coming up in the fall, we have a school board election that's coming up. And right now, we currently have 1 school board member who was endorsed by HDTA and 4 who were not. And so part of what ties our hands is ultimately the bosses of our bosses are the school board, who are elected by the citizens of Santa Clarita. And so if we don't have school board members who are teacher friendly, speech and language pathologist friendly, counselor friendly, nurse friendly, psych friendly, I'm sorry, I'm not mentioning all of us HDTA United friendly, the more of those school board members that we can get who are friendly to us, the more decisions that are made by our bosses that are HDTA United friendly. So it sounds like you're volunteering to help us in the fall for election season, because we're going to be listening from school board candidates. I know this is not on the topic here, but related. We're going to be hearing from school board candidates, and we're hopefully going to be endorsing at least one in this upcoming election, so that we can try to tip that balance, because we can only do so much when we're outnumbered in every school board vote.
Ron, I just want to clarify, because this is being broadcast, the statement was not that La Mesa is violation of contract, but that we would have hoped to have seen in this agreement a reduction of meeting hours, since we all know they're not being, or duties or something, some change that's not monetary, but a compensation for the admission, that this is not keeping up with inflation, and we are all for continuing than we were 2 years.
Okay.
I don't know whose question was next. Okay. Eleanor's going to be my keeper.
He was first.
Constantly being told that LUSD and our district should not be compared because of size and demographics, so I disagree. Demographics is very similar to our district, especially at La Mesa, to LUSD. But we wanted to bring to attention that Oak Park, which is in Westlake, Thousand Oaks area, which is a much, much smaller district than us. And if you look at their pay scale, they are earning across the board between $2,000 to $28,000 more. And so we can't just say that LAUSD, because that's a hard pill to swallow, what LAUSD just got, and then we're giving this off. And we're just bringing to the attention that why can a smaller district, much smaller district, be compensated?
The question was, why can a smaller district like Oak Park compensate their teachers much more than the Hart District can? And again, I can't answer that question because I don't know what the finances are for Oak Park. I haven't seen their budget. I haven't seen where they're getting their finances. So I can't answer that question. And that would be another question for the school board and for district leadership. All we can do is push them as far as they're authorized to go and then bring it to a vote for you to say yes or no. Okay, so I'm going to clarify that yes.
They're gonna vote no. So
Hmm.
what should we say? We wanna play kind of devil's advocate. Why is this the best one? And why, I believe in previous years, there's been times where we waited until, or negotiations that carried here that's being negotiated, you know what I mean, like 26, 27. So what is the benefit of settling now versus coming back in August and picking up?
Okay, so the question was, what's the benefit in settling now versus, it's a two-part question, versus August? And the first part of why do we recommend this? Okay, so the recommendation was the executive board recommended bringing it to a vote to membership. It's not necessarily we recommend yes, we recommend no, but this is the best that we could get given the information that we have and as far as they could go. We push them as far as they can go and beyond where they were authorized. This is the best that we could do at this time. This is the best that they could do at this time. So not being able to go any further, the next step is, okay, let's bring it to membership for a vote. You decide how you vote. The benefit to settling now versus in the fall is having a contract in place before we start the school year, because it's not just money, it's also language and working conditions. And so our goal is always to make sure that we have a current contract in place for the current school year. We don't know what the budget's going to do in June. So if we waited until fall, maybe it would go up, maybe it would go down. You run the risk of some more payroll problems because you have, the retroactive pay. So the benefit now is just getting it done so that we can look forward to continuing to make those improvements. Marty.
What is grant? What's the cost? What do you have to tell them?
Okay, so the question is about the one-time money contingency on the block grant. So every year, the state gives, and I don't understand it enough to know exactly what it is. It's this long name about student. It's a
the learning loss grant from COVID. It's just extra money because we have lots of kids that had learning loss, so we're making up for it. It was free money during COVID that they continued.
Okay, so they get these block grants each year of varying amounts. And so the contingency language is if they have enough money to cover the $2,700 off schedule payment, then we get that payment. Okay. They will have it. So the other part of that contingency is that if that block grant comes through, so if the state legislature approves the budget and this block grant comes through, then we can sit down and talk about the possibility of a buyback day. And in terms of membership, a buyback day equals about 0.5% of pay because it's a per diem It's not hourly, it's a per diem thing. So a lot of people have been wanting a buyback day to use that time for their meetings, for PD, or however it's going to be used. We've tried to get them to pay us for all the abundance of trainings that they want us to do. So that opens it up for a possibility of some additional compensation depending upon how big that block grant is and if there's strings attached to it. So sometimes when they get the block grants, it's not discretionary. So they'll say you have to spend it on this, or you have to spend this much of it on these particular programs. So they can't just give it out however they want. So they need to see what those terms look like after the budget is approved by the state before they can make any guarantees. Question. It's been a lot of hours. So the question is, if it were to be voted down, does the bargaining team have the passion, the energy to go back? The short answer is yes. I mean, we work for, we are you. We're in the classroom. This is our contract too. This is our pay. We're not ever going to do something that we think is going to intentionally screw you over. We want more too. So we are working for the benefit of everybody who is in this unit. I wouldn't have agreed, we wouldn't have agreed to this position if we didn't have the passion for it. So we will always do the best that we can. Ebony.
Basically that if it was voted no and it went back, the question was, would this for salary be taken off the table and could it go lower?
So the question was, if it were voted down and if we go back to the table, correct me if I'm wrong, Ebony, about the question, is it now off the table? Yep. Yes. So the answer is yes. So yes, so if it was voted down and if we were, which essentially means that we have to go back to the table or ask the district to go back to the table. First of all, the district can say no, we're not going back to the table. This is it. Or yes, we start from scratch, which means it could go lower, which means the language that we worked on could change as well. Because again, it's not just the salary; it's all the language stuff too. So all of it would be essentially reopened. And so, yes, the answer to that is it could potentially go down.
So if it did not pass and went back to the district and the district said, sure, we'll sit down and talk. But that opens talking about everything, not, can't pick and choose.
So if we go, yes. I don't see the district wanting to talk about everything because we've spent so much time on all of the language, but theoretically, yes. Correct. Yes. Theoretically, everything would be open again.
But thinking back now, like you said, as a member, I've been doing this for a very long time in Southern and Northern California. I've been almost to the place, but I do enjoy my job. But with them asking for us to do more, not at the rate of pay, but at the same point in time, district office employees get fewer jobs. They open up more jobs, and there's more people there, but yet we have less students. So how does that happen? It doesn't, for me as a person, does not make sense. And John, if you want us to do that, then I would be more than happy. I've never heard this before, but if you want us to get together to go to a doggone board meeting, then let's yippee-ki-yay, let's go. Because I do want answers. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of, that, oh, the, student enrollment isn't on, we're gonna have to get rid of some teachers, but then, yeah, here, at the district office, we have 4 little secretaries, we have to have 3 of them. So we've got, all of a sudden, we've got this fantastic money.
Yeah.
Really? So if you wanna set it up, John, I'll be the one managing, I'm fine. But this just doesn't make me, none.
I think that was a question for John. Yes.
Okay, so, but, so the idea of the, working conditions is the big issue. So that's what I have told them. I have said, when they make, significant changes to your working conditions, then we address it. Now, this is the one I'm dealing with, is this new, tracking data for the psychs, SLPs, whoever counselors, who knows who's doing it. This is more work. When I see in writing that see, one of the problems we have is we have to react. I tell them I'm going to fight this. Then I submit a demand to bargain. That's what's coming. A demand to bargain. And we call them to the table. And outside of this process, we address one issue because they're adding a significant amount of work to people's plate. And they're going to play the old game. Of course, we're getting money. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't care. When you're adding 20, 30, 40 minutes a day to somebody's work and not changing the requirements that were in place, that's a significant change in working conditions. And I am addressing it. I addressed it today with Vince Ferry. I addressed it with Vier. I was sitting with the 2 of them in their office today. I addressed it, and it will be, when it is told you will do this, it will be a demand to bargain. And that's the way we're doing it. I've warned them ahead of time. That's where we're at with that one. The other one we'll talk about separately.
There. All that paperwork, and I don't have second. We don't have money, but you do this, but then here again, if you look at what that paperwork does for the district, where does that money? I mean, you're asking.
It pays for people that were paid for by the grants during COVID that they hired that aren't being paid for anymore. That's the truth.
And that sucks.
Yep.
Because then it's like, okay, Colin, you're working a lot, so we want you to do more paperwork, so we get more money, but we're not gonna give you any more help.
Yes.
But we want you to pay for this.
That's, yes. And I am fighting. No, I am on this one. This is not, this is problematic. And we may have to go to the school board on this one.
Right.
And think about significant change when I use those words. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
I do want to say, I appreciate, I would not do the bargaining because I'm probably private time. That's not my personality. But I think for me and probably others, it's a lack of faith, because I'm remembering the last time that we bargained for salary at the district kept coming to zero back to us. And can we trust that they say there's no more, because it's 0, 0, 0, which to me, and to probably a lot of people, that did not feel like a genuine offer, that felt like an insult. So do you know, and I know we mentioned the fiscal, all of that, but I don't have a lot of trust that that's the best they can do, because they said there was nothing, and then all of a sudden, when we show up in mass at the district office, wouldn't you know right away? And I don't think it's because we were standing there that evening. I think they knew all along what they were going to do. So how do we know that this is the best thing?
So the question is, how do we know that this is the best? Because the last time we bargained, it was nothing, nothing, nothing. A little correction there. The last time we bargained for salary was last year. So it wasn't nothing last year. It hasn't been nothing, nothing, nothing for a few cycles now. For several. So it was before we got the big 10% raise that they've had nothing. So I would say actually since, as long I've been in this position for we did 2 years last year. So like 3 cycles, and it hasn't been nothing. So it was before we got the 10% raise that they've come to us with nothing. And I will say that since Colin's been their chief negotiator, they haven't come to us with zeros. 2 cycles ago. Last year was 1.5, and then I think it was 2 cycles ago that we got 2. I think it was the 23, 24. It was either the 22, 23 school year. Yeah. No, we showed up when we got the 2. I think it was the 22, 23 school year. Yeah. That was the closest that we got to walking. And when we surveyed membership about how far would you be willing to go, we heard from less than 0.5% of membership. And if you're really serious about striking, according to CTA, because we were working with CTA, you're going to need at least 90 to 95% of your membership to be willing to do that. No, and I see where you're coming from, and the thing that's different are the people on their bargaining team and at the district office. So we have a new superintendent from then. We have a lot of new assistant superintendents since then. What we don't have is we don't have a new board. We don't have a new school board. So their bargaining team is different. Our superintendents are different. The school board is not different. So that's the school board might be worse. Yeah. So, but since there's been that change, they have not come to us with 0. Yeah. No, and I hear you. None of us would be here if we didn't love the district. And sometimes it gets a little more difficult to love the district. Mhm. Mhm. These are conversations that we have with many people at the district level, at our site level. A lot of people are leaving. I've had more than a few strongly worded emails to more than a few people at the district office over various things and more than a few heated conversations. Know that we have people fighting for us and delivering that message. Whether or not that message is heard is out of our control. We, as a bargaining unit, can only focus on what we have control over, and that is advocating for the needs of our people as best as we can. And then they get to decide what to do with it. Any other questions or gripes before we move on? And believe me, we hear you because we are you. We're not a big district where the people on your bargaining team and the people at your union leadership are out of the classroom. We have full class loads.
They sound just like that.
Yeah, I get a little emotional, rightfully so. All right. Anything else for 19? I'm surprised it didn't come up, but a question that I've received is when would we expect to see the money? Their goal is by the end of August, but it might go into September. So they would work on, if it were ratified, they would work on the salary increase first to get that in, and then they would work on the one-time bonus. Okay. Moving on to Article 23. This is the Bowman and AOC article. Any questions for this article? I did speak with some Bowman people on the phone today. Okay, Article 24 is going to be a reopener for next round. For LPA, there's a lot of things that they need to figure out first before they put it in writing. We have a question from Wayne. Yes. Article 23. Darren, are you in charge of that? Oh, that's on the summary. Yeah. Yeah. No, that was a typo. My fingers missed a letter. Yeah, so the 2310.4 is about the AOC teachers shall perform professional duties consistent with the middle college high school model. Such duties may differ from those typically assigned at comprehensive school sites and may include collaboration with college faculty, participation in dual enrollment in college readiness activities, engagement in interdisciplinary team meetings. Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Wayne. Any other questions for 23? All right, Article 25, special education. Questions on Article 25? Seeing none, moving to the last one, Article 39, academic freedom. Tried to get some things in there about our flags and banners, did the best we could. They caught on to what I was doing. No questions there. Okay. So I want to just remind you that we are still working on making improvements to the appendices. So those who were hoping to see a different salary schedule or a separate salary schedule, that is something that we're still working on. Those who were hoping to see some additional compensation for professional licenses and additional credentials, we're still working on those. Those who were hoping to see some improvements to Appendix C with the stipends, we're still working on those. We're still working on asking for different step or more steps, because it does suck quite a lot to get to that year 15, 10, and you got to wait 5 years to get it. So it's at the end of the year. So it's at the start of the next year. So if you're at year 22, you got a long way to go. I'm at year 22. I'm finishing out year 22. Got a long way to go for the next one. But these are things that we always bring up. So just know that we are working really, really hard to do that for everybody. General questions before y'all go off for dinner and your parental duties? I think that is all. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. Thank you for tuning in. If you tuned in with us, if you have any other questions before we start voting next week, please feel free to email me, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
Thank you.
You need to sign.
Did you get a shot? That's what I knew. Going, how would they put you in there 2 weeks out?
No, I would need to go.
Who'd you see today?